Let's take a closer look at the previous attempts to stop the war on Gaza. The last temporary ceasefire was in November 2023, which lasted a week. On that day, the death toll was below 19,000. In January this year, Israel and Hamas agreed to a formal ceasefire. By that time, nearly 47,000 Palestinians had been killed. But 2 months later, Israel violated that ceasefire, launching new attacks. And by the end of that month, the death toll had risen to around 49,000. In May, mediators brought both sides back to Doha, but negotiations collapsed. The death toll surpassed 53,000. In July, the US and its partners again pushed a new plan, but without success. By then, nearly 60,000 Palestinians had been killed. In August, Hamas signalled acceptance of a US proposal while the death toll approached 63,000. And last month, Trump announced his 20-point plan for Gaza with more than 66,000 Palestinians killed. Well, to talk us through all the latest developments is Mohamad Elmasry, Professor of Media Studies at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. Thanks so much for being with us once again. First of all, I guess the first question, and maybe the most obvious, is does this time feel different? It feels like Donald Trump really is putting pressure for things to actually happen right now.
It does feel different. I think we have to be cautious because a lot could still go wrong, but it does feel different. I think Donald Trump feels kind of almost personally invested in this. It may have to do with the Nobel Peace Prize that he wants to win. It could have to do with his anger over Israel's attack on Qatar. The New York Times published a report a couple of days ago showing that he was furious over that attack. But that's the question right now, because I think in many ways, he controls the cards here. And so to what extent is he personally invested? I think it's interesting that he keeps on saying that this is going to be the first peace in the Middle East in 3,000 years, right? I mean, it's an absurd statement on its face, but it suggests that he feels a sense of accomplishment. And if that's the case, then I think he could apply real pressure on Israel to end the war. If not, if we get the other version of Donald Trump, the version that allows Israel to do more or less what it wants with the Palestinians, including break ceasefires, then we'll unfortunately be in for more genocide.
The same of what we've seen over the last couple of years. I mean, what do you think? Obviously, mediators are heading to, or already in Egypt, for talks to begin in the coming hours. What do you think is going to be top of the agenda? What will they need to hash out first, do you think?
Well, there's a lot, because as one analyst was saying, this is not so much a plan. I mean, a plan would include sufficient detail. It would include mechanisms. It would include timelines. It would include guarantees, right? This is just more or less an outline without any detail. I think that Israel is going to go into this negotiation thinking exclusively in terms of its 48 hostages. I've been following Israeli media very closely, and I've been following their spokespersons. And what they're saying is, we'll get the hostages back and then worry about the rest later, right? So I think Hamas is going to approach this from the standpoint of they're going to want some guarantees, right? On things like the Israeli withdrawal, they're going to want to discuss the issue of governance. It's a major issue, a major weakness, quite honestly, in this plan. They're going to want to talk about disarmament. They're going to want to talk about the tunnels and a number of other details.
Mohamad, just stay with us because we're getting some latest lines out of Israel now. We're going to go to Noor O'Day, who is in Amman for us. She is there because the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting from Israel and the occupied West Bank. Noor, thanks for being with us. We're hearing from Israeli media that Israeli and US representatives won't actually be participating in these talks until Wednesday at the very earliest, which is basically just leaving Hamas delegates speaking with mediators only for now. What more can you tell us? What more do we know?
That's right, Tom. We know that Ron Dermer and his Israeli delegation, as well as Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, will not be participating in the talks. That leaves Hamas boxed in, sitting with the mediators, trying to work out the many details that were absent from the plan about how to implement the first phase. There's a lot of talk about conditions. From the Israeli side, we're hearing that this is still a test of how serious Hamas is. We also heard some tough talk from the American president, Donald Trump, about still wanting to see how serious Hamas is. For the mediators, there is a real concern about these talks breaking down. And so in an effort perhaps to avoid that, the logistics of implementing the first phase, the withdrawal lines of the Israeli army, how long would it take Hamas to retrieve the bodies of the dead captives, to gather the living ones? All of those things have to be discussed before the sides can sit together and iron out the details, as well as the explosive issue of who from the thousands of Palestinians detained and kept by Israel will be released, because that's another issue that is sure to stir up a lot of emotions and a lot of tension between the two sides.
And just a bit more broadly, Noor, politically, what is at stake here for Netanyahu? Because there's a sense that Donald Trump is really forcing him into this peace deal.
That's right. I mean, Donald Trump even spoke to the Israeli media and said, look, Israel is in a very bad place. It's isolated internationally, and I'm going to save it. This deal will make Israel be in a better light internationally. That does not answer the concerns Netanyahu has domestically. He has a very right-wing coalition that did not want to end the war, does not want to release a single Palestinian captive, that wanted to occupy the entirety of the Gaza Strip. So there's a lot of bargaining and compromises that have to be settled within his circle in order to maintain his coalition. Having said that, the latest polls in Israel do indicate that Netanyahu and his partners wouldn't fare well in elections if they were held now. So there is also shared interest among the coalition to maintain the government, not to allow it to collapse despite the pressures or perceived pressures from Donald Trump, and to go ahead with the first phase, release the Israeli captives, substitute that good news with the 2-year mark of the genocidal war, and then see how they can move forward and whether the ceasefire would hold to begin with.
OK, thank you so much, Noor. No doubt, like everyone, will be keeping a very close eye on what is happening in Egypt over the coming days. Noor O'Day for us, though, in Amman. We're going to go back now to Mohamad Elmasry. As you were hearing Noor say, the Israeli and US representatives aren't actually going to be part of these mediation talks until Wednesday. What do you make of that? Because Donald Trump has been the one who's really been pushing this, that everyone needs to move fast, in his words.
Yeah, well, if you follow American media, which I've been doing over the past couple of days, and if you follow American political discourse, you would be led to believe that the problem here is Hamas. That Hamas is the danger here, that they might not stick to the deal, right? But really, that is all nonsense. We've known for many, many months that Hamas wants to give up the hostages and wants an end to the war, a complete end to the war. The problem is Israel. The problem has always been Israel. And this, I'm reading this as just another kind of stall tactic. It's no secret. It's even been reported in Israeli media that Netanyahu is not particularly happy that he has been forced into this agreement. And so I think he's trying to create some room for himself to wiggle out of it, or to wiggle out of some aspects. There have been whispers over the past couple of days from Israeli military people saying that the intention is to get the hostages, get the captives back, and then go back to war. So my sense, and I don't know, I mean, I'm hearing this for the first time, right? But my sense is that, Netanyahu is going to try and work on the Americans. He's going to try to lobby Donald Trump to change aspects of the deal.
OK, well, like everyone else, we'll keep a very close eye on what happens in Egypt today and throughout the week. Thanks so much, Mohamad. As always, fascinating to talk to you.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news, expert insight. Like, share, stay ahead.